welcome to Inside Outside. Again, my name is Jeff Bailey. I used to have a co-host on this show, and that sort of threw us for a loop. I really appreciate John Gonzalez having been part of the podcast, but he has been able to move on to bigger and brighter things, and he's left me on my own, which kind of explains the 9-month gap from one episode to the other. So we're going to get right at it. I've been thinking a lot lately about how to get this podcast back on the road. We're now a little bit over a year into our knowledge, maybe 15 months into our knowledge about AI, and we've really started to embrace those conversations about what's going to happen with the classroom. And the technology has grown so exponentially that it's really forcing those conversations rather than just people wanting to think about it. Now we're really forced to look at it. So over the next few episodes, I'm going to try to get into a groove and talk about some of the different things that I see happening. I actually toyed with changing my podcast to the Everyday I podcast. And of course, I don't want to be totally just an AI podcast. So I did settle back to the Inside Outside. So I'm going to be both looking at it from the inside the classroom as a former teacher, but also outside the classroom as a specialist that's helping teachers implement technology and also to build curriculum. So that's where we're at this point. So I think in this first episode, what I really hope to do is to start to talk about some of the different AI tools that have come on. If when we were having the conversation last spring, we talked a little bit about ChatGPT in its earliest iterations, and there really wasn't anything else out there. Google had talked a little bit about theirs, but really it was just ChatGPT, and a lot of the first months of talking about AI really hinged on that. But there are a lot more tools that have come out. So today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about those and encourage you as educators and as parents and students to get out and give those a try. So obviously, the big kahuna is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is excellent AI model. It's the most popular one in the world. There's a free version that's pretty powerful. Although, if you've played with ChatGPT and you've worked on the free version, which is a 3.5, that's really powerful. But if you make the shift and you're paying for the professional version, you're working with ChatGPT 4.0, and just the capabilities of it are so much more powerful, and the way it can process information and the kind of responses it gets are so much more robust. And I've really tried to encourage my teachers to pay for that. We've even talked about maybe as a school paying for all of our teachers to have an account, but that is such a pricey implication for schools to make at $20 a month, 10 months a year. It's $200 a teacher. But the free version is a good place to look around, but better if you're willing to upgrade. Some of the features they've added now are you have the ability to copy your answer, and then you can also edit your responses that you get. So, or you can edit what your question is to initially start, which really is the power. I mean, really the most powerful thing of ChatGPT is the ability to ask more questions, to refine your answers. But in the paid version, one of my favorite things is you can add custom instructions to what it is that you're getting. So, for instance, if I was a teacher and I said, "Hey, I want to work with these, I want to work on building some curriculum," I can make ChatGPT ask me, "Hey, what class is this for and what grade level it is?" And so instead of having to retype that or to instruct it, it would always run everything through that. So it would ask me that information from the beginning. I also can tell it instructions like pretend you're a administrator, directing students in a high school. And then all of the responses it gives will be run through that instruction. So those custom instructions are just a fantastic addition to ChatGPT. Another benefit of ChatGPT is it has the most information. It really is, has the most parameters. And so the more parameters, the more information it gets, the less likely it is to give you bad information. And that was one of the first worries about ChatGPT was, it's going to make up information. It's going to give false information. Well, especially in ChatGPT 4, the more parameters you have, the more information you have, the less likely it's going to give you false information. If you would have asked me 2 months ago, I would have said, oh man, ChatGPT, that's where it's at. I love it. It's so powerful. It's the one I use. Google had brought out sometime last year, they had brought out the model of Bard. And I had tried that one a little bit, and I really wasn't in love with it. And I think a lot of it was because Google was really being conservative in how they're stepping forward in AI. They've talked about some of their concerns about how it really can ruin things. Actually, I always laugh at that idea about it ruining things. But once you get into it, you realize how many jobs, how many different things it can do. You realize that this is a really powerful thing, and it really requires us to do a lot of thinking about it. But Bard has since been renamed as Gemini, which is available at gemini.google.com. I believe it's available on free accounts, but don't quote me on that. Our teachers have access to it at our school, but our students do not. And the nice thing about Gemini is it is Google's model. It is not built upon ChatGPT, which a lot of other models are built. They're just a different version of ChatGPT. So Gemini is very simple. I love the interface of it. Like I said, it's free. All levels of it are free at this point. And your content, when you get content that you like, one of the things that's nice for a teacher is you can move it right to a Google Doc. So because you're signed into Google, it'll just create a Google Doc with your content in it. And this is one of the things that as a teacher, I'd be really concerned about as we move forward and as this stuff moves out further into access to students, is that now it'd be easy to identify. It wouldn't be, it just takes one. One of the concerns I think people have is that because you can move it right to a Google Doc, it just removes one more step for students. But if you've heard me before, if you talked to me about AI before, the biggest thing is to make sure that you're having kids go through the process of learning. If you're doing the process of learning, and then you're teaching them how to use AI to help them, not how to replace their work with the work of AI. Another nice thing about Gemini is it's not limited in the conversation length. So both ChatGPT and Copilot, which I want to talk about in just a moment, both of them have conversation limits based on if you're on the free accounts or the paid accounts. But that is a severe limit when you get to a point when you're really working on something and all of a sudden it says, oh, you don't have any more time to access. Come back in 3 hours. And believe me, I've hit that, and oftentimes I've hit it and I'm like, how did I get there so fast? Gemini does offer image creation. Interesting story about Gemini is that they did offer some image creation, and people put in a request, and it was for soldiers in Germany during World War II, and the response that they got from Gemini's image creation was soldiers in Nazi uniforms, but it was a very diverse group, which really highlights sort of the problem with AI is at this point, it really, it gets a lot of context, but it doesn't get all the context. And so that was really misleading, which has led Google to really limit images where you request the pictures of a person, which I really, I like. I like Google's response to that. I think, they want to make the tool the best it can be, but also make sure that it's really not super biased or giving really misleading information. That reminds me of as you start to do searches and you're asking these tools to do different things, if you talk about like make me a picture of a real person, like Taylor Swift, I think that was in the news recently, or if you ask it to paint something that's like a particular artist, it will come up and tell you that that is limited because it's copyrighted information or copyrighted content. So it's kind of an interesting thing to me at this point to see as you're working through these tools that what you're really getting is you're getting a window into the how are we going to moderate this? How are we going to make sure this is safe? How are we going to limit what this is and what it can be? So Gemini is speedy and accurate. I hate to get back on there, but the nice thing about Gemini is it's available in 40 different languages. ChatGPT is not available in other languages at this point, but Gemini is available in 40 different languages. I think that's going to be great for translating or looking at from people from different cultures or different places in the world. And probably my most favorite feature of Gemini is the fact that when you ask it something, if you ask it to write something, it doesn't only write what you ask. It actually gives you 2 other drafts. So you can look at a document and say, oh, that's not necessary, but it's going to give you 2 other drafts, which I think is, a super beneficial tool. So I love Gemini. I think the writing of it is fantastic. And I'd encourage you to try that out if you haven't already. Microsoft is a partner in ChatGPT, and they have released their own version. I think it's called Microsoft Copilot. It was, originally Microsoft was tying everything in with their Bing, and I think that was a lot like Bard. That kind of didn't really go anywhere. But the Microsoft Copilot is a nice tool. I actually think the most powerful part of it is the image creation. It actually gives you four images, 4 different varieties. And it seems like that's a really refined part of their model of built on top of ChatGPT. And I can see where they're going. They're going to try to build that in. So whatever you're doing, so like the graphics that you create with the image maker, that you can take that into another tool and edit those items. And I think that's going to be fantastic. It does work on top of ChatGPT. If you sign in, if you use the free account, you don't sign in with a Microsoft account, you are severely limited, 5 responses in a chat. So imagine having a conversation where you could only say 5 things and it would only say 5 things back to you. And that's really the conversation. If you do sign in with an account, they do let you have 30 on a personal account. And I think with the paid account, that limit is higher, but the paid account just launched. Sometimes Copilot will stall or ignore prompts. It's actually, as a teacher, it's kind of like, maybe that's the perfect model for AI in a classroom. Just like students that can stall or ignore prompts. As you do searches, that is one of the nicest things is, so in Copilot, when you do a search, it will actually bring the search results up from Bing with the links. And you can ask it for specific information. It'll give you a card of information about items. I think that's a fantastic model. And I think, especially with Google and Microsoft, that you're going to see more and more of the search type items. We move on from the early Google model to be more of a ChatGPT model, where you're no longer having to sort through like 75,000 replies. Now you're going to get the best response, and then you'll be able to continue to ask questions. A lot like we're using it already. Copilot is the newest. It's the most up to date because it is tied in with the internet. And a neat feature that I would talk about with Copilot is that it lets you choose your tone. right from the beginning. So you can choose like business or precise answer or kind of a informal response right from the beginning. I think that's a nice feature when you're early on. I think Copilot's actually built for people who are newly coming to AI. Because if you've been out doing it very long, you realize you can build a tone in. You can build any tone in, and you don't need a tool like that. So that is, those are the three big ones. This last week I came across a couple new models. One is Claude.ai. Claude, just like the name, CLAUDE.ai. I think that's a great model. I think the writing's very well done. It's very clean, very crisp. The responses you get are great. The other one I haven't spent a whole lot of time with is Perplexity. And I don't know the address off the top of my head, but I would encourage you to try those. And, as we go forward, I think you'll find a tool that you like, but one of my favorite things recently has been to try the same prompts on different models and see kind of the responses I get, but also taking the prompt I get from one model and then putting it in another and asking questions about it and kind of getting these cross-referenced AI answers. So that is the first episode of our new season, I guess, our hostless, our John Gonzalez less podcast, but hopefully we'll hear from him soon, and hopefully you'll catch my next episode. Our next episode, we're going to look at 5 quick ways to craft effective prompts. What you get is based on the quality of your prompts. So hopefully you'll check out that next episode, and welcome back. I'll welcome myself back, and hope to see you next time. Talk to you later.